Let's talk about two products that occur so often that we just want to be able to look at them and then write their expanded form. Here's one of them. This is going to be A plus B, A minus B. These are called conjugates. There's one difference of sign here, like this one might be a plus, this is a minus, or this could be a minus, this is a plus. But there's one difference in sign. Now look what happens when we actually multiply these together. We're going to get, all right, first and the first is a squared, right? A times a, first and first. First and last, positive times negative, this is going to be minus AB. And then the inner product, positive times positive is positive AB. See what's going to happen? Those are going to cancel. And then the last and the last, positive times negative is going to be negative, and then b squared, and then what happens here, those cancel, and now we're left with this, a squared minus b squared. So this is the first of our two special products. So we might have a plus b, a minus b. So when we have conjugates, this expands to a squared minus b squared. Now the way I think of this is this. What I do is when I see these, I focus in on maybe this one here, and then I say this. Square the first, put a minus sign, and then square the second. Because that's just what we're doing. When you multiply these out, what do you end up with? Look at this. Here's the first. You square it. Then you put a minus sign. Now the minus comes from positive times negative. And then you square the second, right? So square the first, put a minus sign, square the second. Now here is a quick little example. What if we have 2x plus 5, 2x minus 5? So I'm just going to focus on this one, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to square the first. Now, square the first one, 2x. If you square it, you get 4x squared, right? 2x times 2x, 4x squared. Put a minus sign, square the second. That's it. Let's look at another example. How about if we had maybe like 7x plus 3y and 7x minus 3y? All right, I'm going to identify maybe one of these, and then I'm going to talk my way through this pattern. So I'm going to square the first, right? Square the first, right there. So if I square the first, I get 49x squared, right? 7x times 7x, 49x squared. Then put a minus sign, and square the second. If I square this, I get 9y squared. So remember, what happens here is that those middle terms cancel out, right? You have the outer product is negative AB, and the inner product is positive AB. So down here, what would you get? Negative 21y plus 21y. Those middle terms always cancel out, and you're just left the square of the first, the square of the second, but it's always a minus because of this up here, right? Look what you've got. Positive times negative gives you that negative. Now another product that occurs often is the square of a binomial. So if we have something like this, a plus b, and we square it, this comes up a lot. Now let's actually see what this is going to be. This is really what? It's a plus b times a plus b, giving us, now, first and the first, a times a is a squared. And then look at the outer product and the inner product. The outer product is ab, and the inner product is also AB. They have the same signs. Back over here, they had opposite signs, and that middle term canceled out. But now they have the same sign. So it's AB plus AB. So we get plus AB, and then the last and the last, b times b, is b squared. So we get plus b squared. So what we have is the first and the first, a squared. Then the outer product is AB, the inner product is AB, And the last times the last is b squared. Now, look at what we have here. I'm going to write something that we would not normally write when we're expanding this, but this is going to be a squared plus, now how many of these ab's are there? Do you see two of them? So we have 2 of times 2 of those ab's plus b squared. So here's our pattern. If you have this, if you have a plus b and you square that, what you get is a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. I'm going to write this pattern here. Here's what you do. You start here and then you get to here. So what do? Look at this one. You square the first, okay? So you square the first. So let's write that. Here's what you do. You square the first term. So you square the first. Then what? How do you get this? Well, you multiply these two together, right? That's where it came from, up here. You multiply these two together, and then you double it. So multiply the two together and double it. So multiply the two together and then double it. So here's what we do so far. You square the first, that gets us here. You multiply these two together and you double it. Then, look at the last one. You just square the last. So now, you square the last. Here's an example. What if we have x plus 8 squared? So let's talk our way through this one. So what are you going to do here? Up here, here's what we're going to do. You're going to square the first. So the first one is x, so we'll square that. Then what? Then you multiply the two together and double it. So multiply these two together and double that result. X times 8 is 8x, but you double it, getting 16x. And then, what do? You square the last. So you square the last. That gives you 64. There we go. Let's try this one. What if we have 5x plus 2 squared? So, talk your way through it. Square the first, 25x squared. Now, multiply the two together, 10x, right? Positive 5x times positive 2 is 10x. Double it, that gives you 20x. And then square the last. There's the last one, you square that. So you get plus 4. Let's do one more. So these show up a lot. These conjugates, they show up a lot. And squaring a binomial, they show up a lot. So we want to be able just to look at it, talk our way through these patterns here. Right? If you have conjugates, you got a pattern. If you have squaring a binomial, you have a pattern. You just want to talk your way through the pattern and then write the expanded form. Now, alert. All right, so alert. I want to make it very clear so we don't fall into this trap. If you have something like this, a plus b squared, that this is not equal to, you can't just do this. You can't just square each one of those terms. This is not equal to a squared plus b squared. So, for example, if you had this, x plus 6 squared, this is not equal to x squared plus 36. Let's make a big deal out of this. We don't want to fall into this trap. So if you have something that looks like this, x plus 6 squared, this is not equal to x squared plus 36. Let's emphasize that, okay? So I hope we've made that point. Let's just be sure. What is x plus 6 squared? Square the first, x squared. Multiply the two together. 6x, double it. You get 12x. And then you square the last. 6 squared is 36. So you can see that here's the correct answer. This is the wrong answer. There's a missing term up here. You're missing that 12x.